5,500 years ago, in the red hills of northeastern China, a civilization existed that nobody taught you about. They built temples aligned to the stars. They carved dragons from green stone. They worshipped a mother goddess with jade eyes. They created the most sophisticated ritual landscape in the ancient world. And then they vanished. For 6,000 years, the earth covered everything they built, everything they carved, everything they believed. Until 1971, when a farmer's shovel hit something smooth and green in the red Liaoning soil. And the echoes began again. This is the story of Hongshan, the forgotten root of Chinese civilization, the place where dragons were born. This is Echoes of the Ancient World. Subscribe to History in the Shadow. Your one like keeps these rare stories coming. In 1971, farmers in the Liaoning village in Liaoning province were digging a water reservoir during China's Cultural Revolution. A shovel struck something that did not feel like stone or soil. A farmer knelt and began brushing earth away with rough hands. What emerged was a perfectly smooth, C-shaped jade ring with a pig snout carved at the top. Deep green, polished to a mirror surface, made without any metal tool. The farmer almost threw it away. Someone stopped him. Archaeologists arrived, led by a researcher named Guadasan. What they found over the following years was beyond anything they expected. Not one artifact, an entire ritual landscape covering dozens of square kilometers. Temples, stone altars, burial mounds, thousands of jade objects. Carbon dating produced results that shocked everyone. These remains dated from 4700 BC to 2900 BC. That means Hongshan is older than the famous Xia dynasty, older than the Yellow River kingdoms that most textbooks call the beginning of Chinese civilization, older than the Egyptian pyramids, older than Stonehenge. At its height, this civilization covered a territory across what is now northeastern China and Inner Mongolia. More than 100 sites have since been identified. Yet outside China, even many serious history enthusiasts have never heard the name Hongshan. That is why this story matters. The Hongshan people lived in a land of rolling red hills, the Liao River, dense forests, and cold winters. They built houses that were partly underground, a smart engineering choice that used the Earth's natural insulation to hold warmth through the harsh winters. Round and square structures with wooden frames covered in clay and thatch. Central fire pits where families gathered in the evenings. Simple, but sufficient. Their daily lives were organized around agriculture, craft, and ceremony. They grew millet, barley, and soybeans in carefully managed fields. They kept pigs, not just for food, but as sacred animals. They hunted deer and wild boar in the forests. They fished in the river. Their pottery was beautiful. Red clay vessels decorated with black spiral patterns that suggest water movement or snake movement, hand-coiled without a wheel, fired to a warm terracotta red. Trade connected them to distant peoples. Jade came from the Liaoning Mountains. Shells arrived from the Bohai Sea coast. Obsidian came from hundreds of kilometers to the north. This was not an isolated culture, but one participating in a regional world economy. And for approximately 1,800 years, they did all of this without large-scale violence. Very few weapons have been found at Hongshan sites. No Varen villages, no mass graves of warriors, no battle fortifications. By the standards of any era, the Hongshan civilization was remarkably peaceful. Jade was everything. They called it the stone from heaven. It is harder than steel, yet they carved it using only bamboo tubes, wet sand, and endless patience. The jade came from Liaoning mines, deep green tremolite that polished to an interior glow, appearing to contain its own light rather than simply reflecting light from outside. The most famous piece is the pig dragon, or Zhulong, a C-shaped jade ring with a pig snout at the crest and a smooth coiling dragon body below. The largest specimen found at Liaoning is 26 centimeters tall, perfectly smooth, with tiny holes at the top through which a cord passed so the shaman could wear it around their neck. This is the oldest dragon image in all of Chinese art. 2,000 years before any emperor used a dragon symbol. 4,000 years before the dragon appeared on the Chinese national flag. The pig, in Hongshan cosmology, represented the earth and fertility. The dragon body represented sky and water and transformation. The two combined in a single object expressed the complete Hongshan theology of the relationship between earth and heaven. Making this object required weeks of patient work. Bamboo tubes rotating with wet sand as the cutting medium. No metal, no wheel, only practiced hands and unhurried time. Other jade forms included flying birds with spread wings, turtles symbolizing long life, cloud-shaped hooks of uncertain purpose, and small human figures with wide hips representing the mother goddess. In elite graves, jade tubes were placed in the mouths of the dead to allow the soul to travel freely. Jade plaques protected the chest. One burial contained more than 100 jade pieces. In 2023, X-ray studies of Hongshan jade revealed hidden microscopic patterns inside the stone itself. Patterns too regular to be natural, too precise to be accidental. Were they secret codes? Artists' signatures? Théological inscription? We still do not know. At the heart of the Liaoning ritual landscape stands the most extraordinary discovery, the goddess temple. A round clay and stone building, 22 meters wide. Inside, a clay statue of a woman. Her head 3 times normal human size. In the ancient tradition of making divine beings larger than human ones. Her face painted deep red. Her eyes made of actual carved jade. Pieces of tremolite set into the clay, catching the light with that specific jade quality of appearing to glow from within. Snake tattoo markings running down her neck and body. Around the temple, circular stone altars, some with 13 layers of precisely placed stone, perfectly aligned to the sunrise and the full moon at specific times of year. This was not accidental alignment. Modern archaeoastronomers have confirmed it with precision surveys. The Hongshan people tracked the sky systematically over years before they built these altars. They were doing empirical astronomy, making observations, recording patterns, using the results to engineer sacred architecture, 5,000 years before modern astronomy. At the great ceremonies, people came from across the region. Hundreds, possibly thousands, gathering at Liaoning for the seasonal rituals. Musicians played bone flutes that sounded like bird calls mixed with wind. Shamans entered altered states to communicate with the goddess. Pig skulls were arranged in circular prayer patterns around the altar fires. Jade objects were burned as offerings, made specifically to be given to the goddess, not kept. The specific plants used by shamans to enter trance states have left traces in the archaeological record. The narrow slit-eye jade masks found in elite burials depict the specific visual experience of deep trance when peripheral vision collapses to a horizontal field. These masks were not decorations. They were theological instruments, tools for crossing the boundary between the ordinary world and the world the goddess inhabited. Those masks look alien to modern eyes. Narrow horizontal slit eyes, wide open screaming mouths. They appear almost exactly like the alien faces from contemporary science fiction films. But they're not depicting aliens. They're depicting the human face in its most extreme, altered state, experienced and represented by people who understood that consciousness could travel beyond its ordinary limits. Almost identical mask designs appear in the Sangxingui culture of Sichuan, 3,000 years later. The ideas traveled south with the people when they eventually migrated. The elite burials tell us about power and belief. Ordinary Hongshan people were buried simply. A few tools, a single jade tube in the mouth for the soul's journey, simple pottery with food for the afterlife. But the elite were buried under small pyramid-like stone mounds. The burial chambers lined with stone. Hundreds of jade pieces arranged around the body. Jade masks covering the face. The accumulated craft labor of a community's finest craftspeople concentrated in a single burial. Women held significant power. Female burials appear with jade assemblages equal to or exceeding male burials. The supreme deity of the Hongshan religious system is female. Both men and women served as shamans. This was a society where female spiritual authority was real and recognized, in ways that later Chinese dynasties would systematically eliminate. DNA analysis from Hongshan skeletal remains, published in 2022, showed primarily East Asian genetic ancestry with a Siberian element. The Hongshan people are direct genetic ancestors of today's Han Chinese and Mongolian populations. These are not mystery people who vanished without descendants. They're the genetic and cultural ancestors of 1 in 5 living human beings on Earth. Around 3000 BC, the world changed. The monsoon pattern shifted. Rains became unreliable. A great river, the Sarasvati's northern equivalent, called the Paleoliao, appears to have changed course, removing water from areas that had supported thousands of years of agriculture. Then earthquakes. The Liaoning site sits directly on a fault line, and geological evidence confirms significant seismic activity in this period. The stone altars cracked. The goddess temple walls split. Crops failed. The ceremonies intensified. More offerings, more elaborate rituals, the community doing more of what had worked before, hoping it would work again. It did not. But the Hongshan did not destroy themselves. They did not fight each other. There are no mass graves from internal conflict. No veran villages. They did something more organized and more difficult. They held a council. They made a decision. They packed the portable elements of their civilization. The jade pieces wrapped carefully in cloth, the planting seeds in sealed pottery jars, the craft knowledge in the minds of the masters, and they walked south. Over generations, families moved toward the Yangshao culture and other southern Chinese cultures where the rainfall was more reliable. They took their dragon symbol. They took their jade tradition. They took their mother goddess theology. They took the slit-eyed shaman mask tradition. And those ideas entered the mainstream of Chinese civilization. By 2900 BC, the great Liaoning sites were abandoned. The goddess temple fell silent. The stone altars cooled for the last time. Vegetation began to reclaim the spaces. Earth accumulated on the abandoned structures. Within centuries, the mounds were indistinguishable from the natural hillside. For 6,000 years, no one remembered what lay beneath. The legacy that the Hongshan people carried south shaped a civilization that now encompasses 1 in every 5 human beings on Earth. The dragon they invented became the national symbol of China. The jade tradition they established remained sacred to emperors 3,000 years after their civilization ended. The mother goddess they worshipped in the red hills of Liaoning may be remembered, however distantly transformed, in every Chinese goddess tradition that followed. Hongshan forces a fundamental revision of what we thought we knew about Chinese civilization. Chinese history did not begin only at the Yellow River. It began in the northeast, with jade and goddesses and star-aligned temples, long before the dynasties that most textbooks cite as the starting point. Dragons and jade rituals are not imperial inventions. They are prehistoric, mystical, and thousands of years older than any emperor. A peaceful, complex society with female spiritual authority existed in China long before kings and warfare became the organizing principles of civilization. In 2025, the Shanghai Museum held an exhibition called Legends of Dragon, featuring over 300 Hongshan artifacts. Visitors from across China and the world stopped before display cases containing jade pig dragons, goddess figurines, shaman masks, and ritual jade pieces. Objects made by human hands 5,500 years ago, still capable of producing genuine awe in anyone who encounters them. A 15-year-old student standing before the jade pig dragon display case, reading about the first dragon in Chinese art, is looking at the beginning of a symbol they have known their entire life. That student's genetic ancestors may have held that exact jade pig dragon in ceremony on the Liaoning Ridge. The cultural inheritance is direct. The echoes travel through time without decaying. Most of the Hongshan sites remain unexcavated. The archaeology is perhaps 15% complete. New discoveries are still being made at active excavations. The jade whose X-ray patterns we cannot read may eventually tell us something we cannot currently imagine. The script, if they had one, has not yet been found. The Hongshan story is not finished. It is still being told, layer by layer, from the red earth of northeastern China. 6,000 years of silence was broken by a farmer's shovel in 1971. Every year since, archaeologists have been listening more carefully, and the echoes keep speaking.
The script remains undeciphered, the specific governance system remains unclear, and the religious beliefs are inferred but not confirmed.